Welcome to the show. I'm Danny Kanell, and I'll tell you why today's bombshell report on the Patriots has Tom Brady looking real petty.
And I'm Cowherd, and I'll tell you why I think Bill Belichick's days in Foxborough numbered. On a Friday, Speak for Yourself starts right now. We got the storm bomb and this bomb all in the same area.
And the birthday bomb here sitting next to me. Happy birthday to my man Colin. Hello and welcome. We're joined today by Hall of Famer Eric Dickerson and Super Bowl champ Mark Schlereth. Let's start in New England, where a storm just hit Foxborough, and I am not talking about the bomb cyclone. According to an extensive new report from ESPN, an ongoing power struggle within the Patriots organization could spell the end for one of the greatest dynasties in the history of sports. Says the report, quote, "The three most powerful people in the franchise, Belichick, Brady, and owner Robert Kraft, have had serious disagreements. They differ on Brady's trainer, body coach, and business partner, Alex Guerrero, over the team's long-term plans at quarterback, over Belichick's bracing coaching style, and most of all, who will be the last man standing. Those interviewed described a palpable sense in the building that this might be the last year together for this group. Naturally, the team denied the report in a statement saying, quote, "In recent days, there have been multiple media reports that have speculated theories that are unsubstantiated, highly exaggerated, or flat out inaccurate. It is unfortunate that there is even a need for us to respond to these fallacies." Colin, who looks worse in this story, which is really ugly? Brady or Belichick?
Brady looks worse. Belichick comes off as almost sympathetic, that I just wanted to make a move that any coach would make, which is, I've got a Aaron Rodgers, I've got a Steve Young, I've got my Andrew Luck. I'm going to move off my 40-year-old guy. Brady, I'm not going to go as far as petty. We'll talk about that later. But I'll tell you, it makes Tom Brady 12, TB12, that brand, there's a Scientology feel to it, which is really interesting. You're not just criticizing Brady, but you're criticizing this brand he's built and graduating to in a couple years. I don't know how Brady reads this article and doesn't take it personally. I don't know how he does.
I don't know how he doesn't throw his phone through the window or whatever device he read it on.
Yeah.
Because he has got to be ticked off. Because I think this makes Brady look awful. When you look at the pettiness that he had with Jimmy Garoppolo, backing him up, so much so that he kept him out of his TB12 facility to keep him from getting training there. Going back to him being concerned over getting Patriot of the Week. Are you serious? He's worried about that? How about going another championship ring? And where I think Belichick gets some credit is that he's the one in this report that was looking out for the future of the franchise. He had a plan, a succession plan in place, and Brady's out there only looking for himself, for his personal interests, and how can he set up his post-career after the Patriots, and I think all of it makes Brady look really bad. And you said you had a man crush on him. I'm right behind you. I think he's incredible, but this one, not so impressive.
Yeah, and you understand one of the things and one of the strengths of this organization has been always to get rid of a guy a year or two early, right, as opposed to keep him a year or two too long. And they have done that historically through every player. I mean, whether it's a Richard Seymour, whether it's a Vince Wilfork, some of the great Patriots of all time, Lawyer Malloy, they'll just ship you out. And they've been able to do that over consistently, and that's been part of that plan that you talked about that Bill Belichick has always had. I think the one thing that surprised me and concerned me for the organization was this is the first time I can ever remember Bill Belichick being usurped from an authority standpoint by his owner.
Take him off.
And that to me is a big thing. And we talk about it all the time, whether it's the Skins or whether it's the Cowboys, when your organizational structure is such that your coach is actually emasculated from time to time by the owner, that's a bad look, and it's a bad way to operate your franchise.
I mean, Dallas Cowboys, Jimmy Johnson, Jerry Jones. They worked in their own worlds. But when Jerry thought he was a football guy, Jimmy's like, I'm out of here. And Jimmy, to this day, will tell you, Jerry's the smartest businessman I've ever met. I'm the football guy. And I think Kraft, for the only time, said, I want to be on the football side. No trading Tommy. And Belichick's like, I'm out.
Well, it's like anything. All dynasties come to an end. The Roman dynasty, the Patriot dynasty, all of them come to an end. It's like a story. They all come to an end. But I think what the problem is that Tom Brady and Robert Kraft are very close.
Yeah.
I saw that when I went to Israel, and Robert Kraft and Tom Brady were FaceTiming. I'm like, I don't see that with owners. I mean, that's how tight they are. You know, hey Robert, how's it going? Hey Tom, what y'all? I mean, it was like that's his boy. So in a sense, I agree with you. You have to side with the coach because look, Tom's 40 years old. He may say he's gonna play these 45.
Yeah.
That ain't gonna happen. That body ain't gonna allow it. It's just not. So you have to stay with the coach. But you know, when you're the owner, you own the football team. I have the last say. I can tell my coach, look, I'm going to side with the quarterback.
Well, I think Brady looks worse. I put the blame on Belichick for giving this access because he's a guy that's always prided himself in the Patriot way. We're going to keep all distractions out. We hunker down in our bunker and we don't let anybody in. For him to give access to Guerrero, and I don't know when the moment was when he said, uh-oh, what did I just do? That was the biggest mistake you had because Guerrero came in there preaching this gospel message of the TB12, which was great for Tom Brady.
He's the fitness guru that's Tom's buddy.
Yes, and he absolutely undermined the training staff, the medical staff, the people that really matter to an NFL team when you're thinking about the bodies that come into that training room after. And that was the biggest mistake in all of this was for him to let his trainer in there.
And it's really interesting. Some of the quotes in the article, at least, again, it clearly the Belichick side leaked a lot of this stuff because Belichick becomes sympathetic. But there were a lot of, quote, staffers and players that weren't in on this Guerrero guy. I mean, that was my takeaway, that some of them were saying, you know, Brady was bad-mouthing the staff in New England and Guerrero was bad-mouthing it. And it would say staffers and players thought it was unfair because actually New England really does care about diet and about some of the science of getting better. So I thought Tom not only looked bad, but man, that fitness guru guy and Tom's brand looked a little shaky to me.
It looked like a cult.
Yeah, a little bit like a cult.
I mean, there are some things out there like I know drinking water is great for you, but like I drink so much water I don't need sunscreen, like that kind of thing. And I'm like, well, if you drink 14 gallons of water, you're in the bathroom all the time. Of course you're not going to get any sun, right? I mean, especially as you get to 40, right? I mean, you know that.
Yep.
It's your birthday.
All right, welcome back. Eric Dickerson and Mark Schlereth. Back. Let's return to, you guessed it, the Patriots, who are dealing with some serious fallout after a new report from ESPN exposed serious internal conflict between Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, and Robert Kraft. One of the biggest revelations in the story is that Kraft pressured Belichick to trade Jimmy Garoppolo, a move that has thrown the coach's future with the team in doubt. As the report says, quote, Belichick, having always subscribed to the philosophy that it's time to go once an owner gets involved in football decisions, left the impression with some friends that the current dynamic was unsustainable. Colin, will this be Bill Belichick's final season in New England?
Absolutely no question about it. You do not give away not only Jimmy Garoppolo, but a very competent backup Jacoby Brissett for nothing. I mean, they gave up Brissett for a bust receiver. You know, we are all paying attention to the Garoppolo thing, but at least they got a second-round pick. They got nothing for Brissett, who is a strong young guy who at worst is a Case Keenum backup level player. Okay, so now we get in this story that Belichick is also, for the first time in his career, mentoring his coordinators how to interview for jobs. So let me get this straight. So Belichick's never given away quarterbacks. He gave away 2. And he's never helped his coordinators get work, and he's doing it with both. Pretty obvious. He was ticked off when Kraft sided with Brady. He says, okay, I'm gone, 2 coordinators gone, 2 quarterbacks gone, you're left with 41-year-old Tommy. I'll be down in Jupiter, Florida. I think he's looking for an exit.
I don't think so at all. I think once cooler heads prevail, and maybe it's a month after the season, maybe it's a week after the season, at whatever point they sit down, I think you get these 3 power players in a room and they say, what is really going on? I think they hash it out. I think there might be some yelling. I think, as you said, there's definitely some dissension between these guys. Maybe they don't talk at practice. Maybe it is icy. But once they all come back, I think they realize, you know what? We have an incredible thing going here. Maybe one of the greatest runs that we've ever seen in sports. And I think Brady and Belichick will hang it up together because I think they both realize they need each other. And as great as their egos are, I don't think they want to risk seeing what's out there without each other. So for that reason, I think Belichick comes back next year.
Gosh, listen, here's what's interesting to me. All right? So the Niners pursued this Jimmy Garoppolo trade all the way back to when John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan got the job. It goes all the way back to the Combine. And it continued. The Combine, it continued. They pressed, they talked. They even asked about Brady's availability. They pressed, they talked, they pressed. It was no, absolutely not, no way, no way, no way. Then all of a sudden, the phone rings, and it's Bill Belichick a couple days before the trade deadline. You still want Jimmy Garoppolo? Boom, second rounder. Okay, done. Hang up. Like, that just feels to me like I'm done.
That's what
right? It just feels to me like, okay, you know what? As soon as you meddle in my business and the way I've run this team to the tune of 7 times we've been to the Super Bowl and 5 world championships, as soon as you circumvent my authority and the deal that we've had, I'm out. And that's what I agree with Colin. I just feel like that's it. I'm going to coach. Well, whatever happens in the playoffs happens in the playoffs, and
By the way,
and I'm walking away.
if you work for 4 years on something, 3 or 4 with Garoppolo, it's a project.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you worked in a business for 4 years or a website. You don't give it away. like when I saw that, it wasn't just Garoppolo. It was like he also worked for 3 years on Brissett. He's going to give it away? That doesn't make any sense. That's not what people do. You have a business.
What we're forgetting,
you
though,
just
is there
give it
was-
away.
There was a trade deadline, though, and if they would have kept him on their roster, what do they do with him now? Of course, now a second looks like a steal because Garoppolo's been out there. It's 5-0, but we didn't know all this intel, and we're finding out the Patriots liked him, but there was absolutely some unknown. So I think Belichick did the smart thing and said, let me get something.
I understand that. With the injury history of this league, where everybody loses a quarterback in the preseason, and you got, I think it was 2 number 1s for Sam Bradford. You can't tell me that Jimmy Garoppolo ain't going to bring more than a second rounder.
But maybe
couldn't make a second call.
Speaking to your point, though, maybe they wanted to make sure that Brady was going to be able to make it through the year with Garoppolo.
Is Belichick leaving? Look, these are grown men. You know, this is business. This is football. Like you said, after the season's over with, we'll all sit down. We'll talk. And I think, like you said, I think cooler heads will prevail. Like, look, man, you know, in the locker room, it's players don't like each other. It's coaches don't like each other. Let's talk about this. Let's try to work this out. You know, if Tom's gonna come back, let's try to get us a backup. Let's get us an adequate backup, and we'll just keep moving forward. What does it come down to? It's all about winning. We don't care about your egos. It's about winning football games, winning Super Bowls. That's what it comes down to. If Tom wins the Super Bowl at 40 years old, this story doesn't even make a difference. They'll talk about it later. Okay, is he coming back? He's not coming back. That'll be the question.
And the coordinator's leaving? Like, that's old news for the Patriots. Like, they have guys
Everybody
leaving
leaves.
left and right all the time because that's what happens when you're a Super Bowl team because of the laziness of NFL coaching searches that go on. It's, oh, who won the Super Bowl? Let's call their coordinators. Which team is having a great year? Let's call their coordinators. And that always happens to be the Patriots.
I guarantee you this here in the locker room, the guys in the locker room say, "Oh man, we've been knowing this. this ain't nothing. You know, we've been knowing this been going on. Y'all just getting it."
That may be true, but remember the Ray Rice story? We read stories about it. Then we saw a video, and the video amplified it. And all of a sudden the league went, I mean, that story was out there for 6 months. Ray Rice, fiance, violence. Articles do the same thing. Everybody may have known about this, but when your teammates can pick it up and read it, it's embarrassing. Like, I agree. You know, obviously, by the way, if you're married to somebody and you're fighting, you know about it. If it's in the New York Times and makes you look bad,
Everybody
and then
knows about
everybody
it.
knows
Right,
about
yeah.
it, it amplifies the story.
But that don't mean, like, I'm gonna leave her because everybody knows. I'm leaving.
Well, according to the report, Brady wasn't exactly a mentor to Jimmy G. One story has him declining to help the young quarterback with his footwork. But even worse, and there's an allegation that when Garoppolo showed up for an appointment at the TB12 clinic, he actually found the doors locked. The report also details Brady's reaction to Garoppolo being traded. Quote, he seemed liberated. Kraft hugged Brady when he saw him that week in full view of his teammates. A few days later, during practice, players and staffers noticed that Brady seemed especially excited, hollering, cajoling. Love that word. Kanell, does Brady look petty here?
I don't see how you could see it any other way except for Brady looking petty. Going back to the Patriot of the Week, he's upset about not getting that award. And I get it. Belichick rides him hard. And I think that's the evil genius of Belichick. He knows which buttons to push on Brady. And it's those buttons which remind him of that history of him being overlooked. He's never good enough. And that's what he thrives on. But the thing that was really disappointing to me was the Garoppolo story of him being outside And Guerrero, who's Brady's body coach, has this facility that every other player goes to, sets up appointments, and that Garoppolo shows up and knocks on the door and nobody answers and he's left there hanging. Like that, the pettiness of that is what's alarming. I don't have a huge problem that he doesn't take him under his wing and say, hey, let's watch film. Let me teach you everything I do. But to orchestrate the trade, to say I want him out of here, that's the part that's disappointing to me.
I don't think he looks petty. I think he looks like Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan and all the great ones. He's ridiculously competitive. I mean, Michael Jordan punched teammates, had a Hall of Fame speech. He called out his high school coach. You're the greatest basketball player ever. You're going back 20 years? I think Tom Brady looks like, remember, Tom Brady grew up in San Francisco. His idol was Joe Montana. They moved him out of town. And then he watched Peyton Manning, his rival, get moved out of town. And then he watched American icon Favre get moved out of town. And Brady's like, I know how the story goes. Right. I'm not helping this guy. You can call it petty, but I was saying this morning. If this company decides whenever there's a new guy, he's the next Colin, you know what? Good luck. I'm not telling you how to, I'm not going to help you. If I know you're there to
would you lock him out of the building?
Would you lock
him out of the building? Would you not let him in?
I don't let Schlereth in my office.
You know, it's been interesting, or it is interesting to me. I've always felt like it was my responsibility to leave the game a better place than when I entered it. And I always thought it was my responsibility to help the young players achieve as high as they can achieve, you know, to become the best players they can be, even if it meant that eventually they'd take my job. I felt like that was my job, that was my responsibility. I think most players are that way, although you look at the quarterback position, Danny, you know this better than anybody. You've played it. I mean, Montana didn't take Steve Young under his wing.
He didn't.
Favre didn't take Aaron Rodgers under his wing.
No.
You know, the one thing I will tell you, because I asked Jimmy Garoppolo about this, I did a 49er game. I said, you know, Tom Brady, how was he? What'd you learn? And he didn't give me specifics, but he said this to me, and I thought it was really telling about who Tom Brady is and what Jimmy Garoppolo was able to learn from him. He said, he taught me that playing quarterback is not a job, it's a lifestyle. It's about that commitment. And for learning that, watching Tom Brady, you know what? That will do more for him than footwork or meetings at Alex, whatever his name was, what's the guy, Guerrero's facility. So, I mean, you took what you could take from him, and it's your responsibility to learn as much as you can from the guy. It's not his responsibility necessarily to teach you. Does it look petty? Does it look bad in my eyes? Certainly it does. But I think it's part of that quarterback that, I don't know, did you have a guy that ever kind of shut you out?
No, I didn't have that bad of a relationship.
You weren't threatening anybody.
Very true.
They're like, oh, this guy can't play. I'll help him out.
I was the great backup.
Well, first of all, everything and everybody has an expiration date. It's a time. It's time to leave. It's time to come.
Like milk, right?
It's just like milk. It's time to go. Helping him, you know, I think the big thing, if it's true, if they locked him out, because you know how the media is, it might not even been just like he might have showed up late, but we don't know for sure exactly what happened. But you know, it's not Tom Brady's job to actually help him. I mean, I say as a running back, if a guy asks me a question, I'm going to help him, but I'm not going to help him take my job.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what it comes down to.
That's fair.
It'd be like you. You want somebody to come take your job?
No.
No. Mark, you might say that nonsense, but come on, let's be for real.
No, I always try to help players, but I always
Come on, but let's be for real.
But it's different for a lineman because there's multiple spots. There's only one quarterback.
That's a good point there.
Yeah,
that is
true.
a different
But
spot.
still, you want your job. You want to hang on to your job as long as you can, but everybody, I don't care who it is, they have an expiration date.
By the way, you guys think about this? So that Garoppolo story, he went to the clinic and wasn't let in? Mm-hmm. Only one person would know that, right? Garoppolo?
Yep.
Does it make you think he leaked some of this stuff?
Could be.
Because I guarantee you, Tom's not leaking that part. No. Like Garoppolo would know that story.
Yes, better than anybody.
For that to get in.
That and Alex Guerrero.
Yeah.
They would be the two guys that would know.
And Guerrero's not doing it because he looks bad in the article.
Yeah.
To Oakland, where according to multiple reports, the Raiders will announce Jon Gruden as their new head football coach at a press conference Tuesday. Looks like he could be there for a while. Reportedly, 10 years, $10 million a year. Do the math, $100 million. Danny, is Jon Gruden worth that bank?
No, not even close. Let's get this straight. So Gruden was traded to Tampa Bay. The year after he left, Rich Gannon won the MVP in Oakland without Gruden the following season. When Gruden goes there, has a tremendous amount of success with Tony Dungy's defense, and with a very average quarterback, and Brad Johnson, my friend, I don't want to rip him, but the offense wasn't spectacular. The offense never got great, and as the defense deteriorated, got old, and they had salary cap problems, that's when Jon Gruden started to fail. Had a losing record in his last 6 years there, 0-2 in the playoffs when it was all said and done. If you're going to spend this type of money, why wouldn't you go, and you want to make a splash, why not throw that at Nick Saban?
That's what I thought.
Why not throw it at Pete Carroll? Why not? Knowing what you know now with what's going on at the Patriots, maybe it's worth a call to Belichick. You could have made a much bigger splash with more recent history of success in the NFL than going after Gruden.
Yeah, and certain things sound like a disaster. Like if I would have said to you, yeah, the 49ers are going to fire a coach who took a team from 6-10 to 13-3, and replace him with a guy named Jim Tomsula who's never been a coordinator. You'd be like, that sounds bad. Barry Melrose, TV commentator, out of coaching for a decade, coaching Tampa Bay, lasted 12 games. This sounds not great. Porous franchise, pays $100 million for a coach who hasn't been in a team for 9 years. That doesn't sound good to me. Like, Gruden's enough of a workaholic, and I do think, like you've talked about, he lives in a room.
There's no question.
This is not like Jerry Tarkanian to the San Antonio Spurs where you're like, he doesn't even like the NBA. Gruden loves the NFL. But man, 9 years out of this business, they don't use fullbacks anymore. When John was in this sport, they had huddles.
He'll have it.
And I don't hate, like, I think he could have some success, but at that price, it's just not worth it.
Well, I mean, I just look at you're worth what anybody's willing to pay you, and they're willing to pay him. And you know, I mean, I hate the Raiders with a white-hot intensity of 1,000 suns. I hate them. But the league is a better place when the Raiders are relevant. And the issue, more than anything else, the issue is developing a winning culture, putting a culture together that you can win with. He's got a quarterback that could be an all-star type of quarterback. He's got one of the best offensive lines, although they underperformed this year in all of football. They've got talented players on the offensive side of the ball. I don't think there's any question. And really, to me, it comes down to, can you create a culture there, an atmosphere there that can win? And he did that when he was there. He took a Raiders team, and I played against them. I played against that Raiders team. My career, 6 years in Denver, I was 11-1 against the Raiders. But he took a Raiders team and created a culture there where they started to win. Then he left, went to Tampa Bay, and the rest is history. But I think that part of it for them, they have been, for a decade and a half, have been trying to change the culture there. And they look at him and say, man, this is the one guy that we feel like can change it. He's done it before. He can do it again. You know, I'm not going to hate on him. There's college, Nick Saban, $11 million, including a $4 million bonus. So you can't put peanut butter on your toast if you play in college football. But we'll pay Nick Saban $11 million, right? I mean, isn't that how it works? But you're going to play in the national championship. You guys will get a cool swag bag, have a watch and a hat in it. I get a $4 million bonus. So, yeah, good for you guys.
Well, it's like this. You said it best. If you're going to pay me $100 million, you're going to say, nah, give me the $50 million. I'm going to give you 50 back. No, you don't take it.
Right.
You know, I feel like Vegas, they're going to Vegas. This is the perfect fit for Vegas. You know, we don't know if it's going to work or not. Nick Saban in Vegas, you imagine Nick Saban in Vegas or Belichick in Vegas? That ain't going to happen. See, even you have to laugh about it.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the perfect fit for the Raiders. He's been at the Raiders. People look at Chucky's back. You know, that's what they want. Now, if it works or not, I mean, you said it best. He's always in the film room, looking at film. He's not outdated when it comes to football. I don't believe that. I mean, it's just the thing is, will he be able to relate to the players? He's been away from players so long. Because now, you know, you got a blackboard, you do your own thing, but now you got to sit and talk to players. And
I wonder if his fame, though, because he's 10 times. I mean, he's a pitch man. He's like, if his fame from doing Monday Night Football and being on ESPN and being on all those quarterback, you know, all the quarterback coaching things and all that stuff, if his fame instantly gives him more credibility in a locker room where everybody's trying to build a brand. I mean, I built a brand. And you know what? The way you build a brand in this league is actually being good at football.
Yeah.
Then you'll build your brand. So get off your doggone, you know, phones and all that stuff, and let's start building a brand together.
I'm worried what Eric said, because think about today's player as opposed to a decade ago. They're more politically active. You're seeing more racial divides in locker rooms, which I never saw. I mean, it was more, there was kind of, you could put those things aside, you could make jokes about it. Now guys are willing to question things more. Why are we running this play? Like, nobody asked those questions just a decade ago, and now they will. So I think that'll be his biggest challenge, more so than the X's and O's.
One one good thing. It's a 10-year contract. I think you can build a pretty good staff knowing, hey, I'm going to get 4 or 5 years minimum. I mean, when you go to get
security-wise,
from a security standpoint, I could go to my wife and say, no state tax, nice winters, good restaurants, and I know for 4 or 5 years I'm locked in at $700,000 a year. Yeah. It's really easy to get a good staff when people know I'm not going anywhere.
And they're going to pay that staff too. They're going to back up the truck for them.
Welcome back, Eric Dickerson, Hall of Famer. Jason McIntyre will be eventually. Let's move to the Rams, who host the Falcons Saturday night. I like Atlanta and the points. What? Yes, it's the first playoff game for the Rams forever, right? But apparently that wasn't enough motivation to keep Todd Gurley from partying. Star running back got caught by TMZ Sports at a swanky LA nightclub less than 48 hours before kickoff.
Oh, no.
Danny, got an issue with Gurley partying right before a playoff game?
This is such a non-story. Like, this is ridiculous that anybody's upset at all. And if you are, you're showing how little you know about football. The 2 nights before the game is one of the only nights the players have to actually let loose. And by all accounts, this video, how do you describe that? You said he was getting crazy?
Crazy.
He's walking into a place that's a restaurant that turns into a club. Maybe he's getting something late to eat, a little late night bite to eat. It is no issue whatsoever. You do a light walkthrough the day before the game. Most players go out. And most importantly, if this is what Todd Gurley does throughout the year, I say keep doing it. You want to keep your routine going throughout the playoffs. I have no problem with this whatsoever.
I don't either. Listen, there's no TMZ in Kansas City.
It's true.
I mean, this is Los Angeles. You literally, if you're in Los Angeles and marginally famous, I've gotten off a plane at LAX and I got TMZ guys all over me. And I'm like, how did you know what flight I was on? This is the reality of Los Angeles. There's TMZ, Harvey Levin, props to you. There's cameras everywhere. And by the way, if you go to one of these 6 to 10 popular Hollywood restaurants, and by the way, there's about 6 to 10 where everybody goes, where you can hang out with young people. There's a camera there. Yep. This doesn't bother me at all.
No, Eric, I mean, I'm sure the TMZ was following you with the Rams going to the playoffs back in the day.
Most definitely. TMZ wasn't even heard of. Well, first of all, if it was a big party, where were all the girls at? Because it would have been a line of girls behind me. Then you could have said I was partying. Let me tell you something. 2 nights before we played the Cowboys in 1985 in the playoff game, I was out. I came in, me and 4 other guys came in, 8 o'clock just to go to practice. We just walked in with tuxedos on, go to practice, had 248 the next day. So, hey, man, look, he's 22 years old. Have fun. You know, enjoy yourself. But I want to know, where were the girls at? I mean, that's not a party to me. He walking in by himself.
Anybody who's making the reach saying, what about Odell Beckham and the boat trip last year? This is nothing like that, okay? Plus, Odell Beckham went out and dropped, I believe, 3 passes in that game. Listen, Gurley's going to run wild on Atlanta. We know that. I think this is much ado about nothing. Although I will say, as a internet guy, a blog guy who produces content, this is great because it actually helps Gurley. Listen, they're still trying to establish themselves out here, right? The stadiums are not always full with Rams fans. This actually helps kind of put them on the map. You know, celebrity see, who's that guy? Oh, he's in a playoff game Saturday night. Colin, I know you've probably got tickets to the game, right? This is going to be the biggest thing in town this weekend. You know, I think this helps Gurley in a way.
It's when I would come into a huddle, because we do the walkthrough, and whether it was the starters or the backups, I come in the huddle the day before the game. And it's a walkthrough. It's at 9 a.m. Usually you come in there, it's a light practice, and you literally could smell the alcohol in the huddle. Like if you lit a match, you were going to have problems going on there. The only thing I will say is this. If he was a quarterback, I would have a problem.
Yeah, it's different.
There's one position where you have to carry yourself differently. You have to play the part because you don't want to subject yourself to unnecessary criticism. That'd be my only thing here is if he's willing to go out, he better be willing. And I wouldn't crush him for it. You wouldn't. But idiots in the media would. They would crush him saying, if he doesn't have 100 yards, if he doesn't have a big game, people could come back. So I'm sure he's well aware of that. But for quarterbacks, I would say do not subject yourself to that.
Tony Romo in a bye week went to Mexico for 2 days.
Yes.
And we went crazy, and justifiably so, because Tony hadn't had a lot of playoff success. And I just think, I always say we call it presidential. Trump's not presidential. I call it quarterbackial. And that's been my criticism of Cam Newton. He's too emotional. He's up, he's down, he's pouting. I like my guy to be Russell Wilson. The second after he lost the Super Bowl, he's like, it's on me, bad play. Because you are the face of the franchise. So I really, and I've said this before, I judge receivers, backs, tight ends, tackles, linebackers different than quarterbacks. This doesn't bother me.
You have to. It's a whole different animal.